are exhausted from hiding who you really are. You have been performing for so long that the performance stopped feeling like a choice. It just became who you are, or at least who you tell the world you are. But somewhere underneath all of that presentation, underneath the curated confidence and the carefully rehearsed responses, there is a person who has not been allowed to breathe in a very long time. And today, I want to talk about that, about the mask, about why you put it on, what it costs you to keep it on, and most importantly, when you are finally going to take it off. The mask was not always a burden. At some point it was armor, and that armor made complete sense. Maybe you were in an environment where showing weakness got you hurt. Maybe expressing emotion led to ridicule or rejection. Maybe the real you showed up honestly one day, and somebody used that honesty against you. So you built a version of yourself that was safer, more acceptable, more digestible for the people around you. And that version worked. It got you approval, it kept you protected, it helped you survive a situation that required a degree of self-concealment to get through. The mask did its job. But here is where it gets complicated. You are no longer in that situation. The threat that created the mask has passed, or changed, or no longer exists in the same form it once did. And yet, the mask remains, because you forgot something critical along the way. You forgot that you put it on. It started to feel permanent. The protective layer hardened into an identity, and now you do not know where the mask ends and where you begin. That confusion is not weakness. It is what happens when a coping mechanism goes unchallenged for long enough. Think about how much energy it takes to maintain a false presentation every single day. Every conversation, every room you walk into, every relationship you navigate, there is a constant low-level calculation happening. Am I being too much? Too little? Too emotional? Not emotional enough? You are managing perceptions in real time while simultaneously trying to actually live your life. That is an enormous tax on your nervous system, and you have been paying it for so long, you stopped noticing how tired it makes you. But the fatigue is there. It shows up in the moments when you are alone and the performance can finally pause. That heaviness you feel when there is nobody left to perform for, that is the weight of everything you have been suppressing. And here is something worth sitting with. The connections you are building while wearing the mask are not connections to you. They are connections to the character you created, which means any love, any friendship, any admiration that comes your way lands on a surface, not on the real thing. And somewhere inside you, you know that. There is a loneliness that wealth cannot fix, that success cannot fix, that popularity cannot fix, because it is the loneliness of being surrounded by people who have never actually met you. You can be in a full room and still feel completely invisible, because the part of you that most needs to be seen is the part you decided years ago to keep hidden. So, why is it so hard to take the mask off, even when you want to? Because vulnerability does not feel like courage. It feels like danger. Your nervous system was trained to associate openness with risk, and that wiring does not update just because your circumstances do. The instinct to conceal does not disappear when the original threat disappears. It stays active, waiting for a signal that it is safe to stand down. And sometimes that signal never comes, not because it is genuinely unsafe, but because you were never taught how to recognize safety. You were only taught to recognize threat. This is the part that requires real honesty. Not the kind of honesty you perform for other people, but the kind you have with yourself in the quiet moments. Ask yourself what you are actually protecting, not in abstract terms, but specifically. What is the thing you are most afraid would happen if the real you showed up without apology? What is the judgment you are bracing for? What is the rejection you are preemptively guarding against? Because until you name it, it runs you. It operates from underneath your choices, influencing everything without your conscious awareness. The mask will not fall off on its own. Waiting for the perfect moment of readiness is itself a strategy for never having to try. There is no version of this that happens without some discomfort, without some exposure, without the heart rate rising slightly as you let something real show through. That discomfort is not a sign that you are doing it wrong. It is a sign that you are doing something genuinely new. And the people worth keeping in your life, the ones actually worth building with, will not run when they see the real version. They will move closer. You have spent years perfecting a version of yourself built for other people's comfort. And I want to ask you something direct. What would your life look like if you started building it for your own truth instead? Not recklessly, not all at once, but deliberately and with intention. Beginning to let the mask slip in the places where it no longer serves you. One honest conversation. One moment where you let yourself be seen without editing the emotion out of it. One choice that reflects who you actually are rather than who you have decided is more acceptable. The mask kept you safe once. Honor it for that. And then recognize that what protected you in one season can quietly suffocate you in another. The version of you underneath that mask has been patient. It has waited. It is still there. And the question is no longer whether it exists. The question is whether today is the day you finally decide it deserves some room to breathe.